Welcome to the Heart's Home podcast, where we explore the path of the spiritual awakening, self-realization, and empowered creation. I'm your host, Lizzie Siegel, and this is a space for all of you visionaries and way showers, the shadow workers, light workers, grid workers, star seeds, old souls, intuitives, empaths, and highly sensitive souls. Those who already know that they are here and meant for something more and are ready to embody the infinite power to love, honor, and serve themselves and the collective. This podcast is a homecoming to your heart, a space where we walk the path together, following divine guidance, embracing synchronicities, and living authentically. I'll share spiritual teachings, stories, and reflections, all while guiding you toward a life of love, abundance, and aligned action. Remember, when you shine your light brightly, others can find you. So let's begin this journey of self-illumination together. If you're looking to balance and harmonize your energy, my multimodality energy healing sessions combine the best of divine source codes, my unique download from source, Reiki, and intuitive guidance to support you on your journey. Each session is tailored to meet you where you are at, helping you connect with your inner light, release what no longer serves you, and anchor into peace and clarity. Sessions are available both in person and online. Energy healing works in person and across distances because energy is everything and everything is energy. It knows no time and space, and it is just as effective in person as it is distantly. These sessions are like a warm, or maybe cool, but a loving, energetic massage. That's what a lot of people describe them to me as. Let's bring your energy into alignment. We work with the chakras, we work with the aura, we work with all of the energies and the possibilities to help you align and feel uplifted and living with purpose. These sessions are available both in person and online. Energy healing works distantly and closely. Energy knows no time and space because everything is energy. If you'd like to bring your energy into alignment, connect with me and book your session today. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Heart's Home. This is a special episode, a guest episode in the series of Conscious Conversations, a beautiful series within the series, a meta series, where we invite other conscious beings to have conversations and share their journeys with us. This one in particular is a journey of a soul-preneur. And you are going to hear how we bridge the physical and spiritual realms, uniting the wisdom of the heart with the calling of the higher self. This episode today is very special because we get to hear how you can step into your purpose, into your dharma, and embrace the 4D and the 5D energies of the new paradigm and share your unique light with the world. Today, I am thrilled to welcome back Alex McRobert, the inspiring soul behind Sober Yoga Girl and the Mindful Life Practice. In our last conversation about a year and a half ago, we explored the beginnings of her journey, and today we'll dive deeper into her soul-preneur path, her evolution, and the way she's expanding her mission. So settle in, connect with your breath, grab your favorite beverage, get cozy, and join us as we explore what it truly means to live a soul-aligned life. This is so exciting. Welcome back to another episode of Heart's Home. I'm your host, Lizzie Siegel, and I am joined today by Alex McRobert. She is such a beautiful soul and a returning guest. She was one of my only guests, actually, on season 1 of Heart's Home. And we are reconnecting to share with you a next chapter, a next level of expansion. And so I also wanted to just show off. I'm wearing one of Alex's beautiful shirts that I got when I went on a retreat with her last year. And Alex, please share with us what you do, who you are, how you be in this world. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, it's amazing to think back to, when I was on the show a year and a half ago and how my life has evolved and changed. And I am currently, I teach yoga. I run an online yoga community, and I do retreats and trainings primarily in Bali. That's my home base, but elsewhere around the world. So I'm back in the Middle East, usually once or twice a year. India, I've done some retreats in Mexico. So, yeah, a ton of different things going on, and a lot of it in the realm of sobriety, but also just yoga in general.
And your journey has inspired me so much. Fun fact, actually, I don't even know if you know this. I didn't, for many, many years, I actually haven't been much of a drinker at all. But in January of 2024, this year, I officially was like, I just don't drink. I mean, almost all of last year, I didn't drink at all. And then all of this year, I have not drank. And for me, that's like, it's not difficult even a little because it's just not my thing, but it's that importance of treating myself and this vessel with so much love and respect, because I see how differently it can go when we use different substances and things that change our situations. And I just wanted to say thank you for inspiring this part of my journey, because I didn't even realize it was something that I actively needed to care that much about until I really anchored into your energy and your world. So thank you for that.
Oh, beautiful. That's amazing that it had an impact on you.
Hmm.
It's cool to see that long-term play out, actually, because I'm now 5.5 years sober, and there's people that have kind of been on the fringes or periphery or just kind of watching. And just like you, it's like, for some people, it's like, this isn't an issue for me. It's not a difficult thing. It's just, I see that my life is better without it. And it's cool to have that positive impact on people's lives.
Yeah. And thank you, thank you, thank you, just for being who you are and for being such a shining example of a human who lives in alignment. You've really been an inspiration on my journey. And I wanted to actually start off by asking you to share a bit of your background journey for those people who maybe aren't going to go back and watch season 1, the episode that you were on. And if you could also particularly touch on, were you always spiritually awakened in this incarnation? Or was there some catalyst or aha moment for you that set you on this path?
I love that you highlight incarnation, because I'm deep into the Bhagavad Gita right now, and I'm totally in this idea that I had many lives before this one and many after. But in this life, was I always this spiritually awakened? Was that your question? Spiritually awakened or spiritually? Yeah. So
In touch, however you want to say it.
yeah. So I grew up in a very kind of unspiritual family, is how I would describe my family. My family were, I think my parents they had their own reasons for withdrawing from religion, and they connected over that, but as a result of it, my house, we didn't really do spirit or traditions or anything like that. And it often felt like my parents belittled a lot of things in the spirit realm, to the point that I had an unconscious like bias towards them or not believe them, and I would just bat them away. And so but yoga, I think they supported as a practice for me because it reduced stress and was a physical exercise, like I think they were fine with the yoga. But the yoga for me, I remember it started expanding out so I did my first yoga class when I was 18, and I was really struggling with my mental health at this time. And, then I started reading my first yoga philosophy book, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I remember on my 200-hour yoga teacher training, which was a long time ago now, it was 10 years ago. There was a bunch of stuff going on around like Reiki and tarot cards and blah, blah, blah. And I was resistant to all of it. Like I walked away with this complete rejection of so many of these things, which I now fully embrace now. And I think I had two pivotal moments that I think of. And the first was I had a pretty serious mental health breakdown, which was actually when I was living in Kuwait, and I really thought I was going to die at that point. And the second was a couple years later when I got sober, and it's taken me a long time to see what really happened, which is that I just wasn't healing that trauma, and it was just living in me. And then that was why I developed such a serious drinking issue. Like it was a full-blown, I think if I kept going, I would have probably needed rehab, because I was just drinking every single night. And I feel very fortunate I got sober when I did, but it's very clear that I just was drinking to cope with my unhealed trauma. And it was from that moment when I would say I had my deep spiritual awakening. This idea of spirit was around me all the time, but that was the moment when I started just accepting every single thing that came on my path. And it started with my psychic Dan, and then all of a sudden I'm in Reiki, and now I'm doing angel cards, and now I'm whatever. My philosophy now is like anything that appears on my path, it's come for a reason. And even if it's not, say I do a healing session, I'm like, well, I didn't really get anything out of that. I'm like, well, whatever. I had a nice meditation for an hour. It still benefited me because it regulated my nervous system. And so that is kind of my philosophy now. And when I was 30 days sober, I had this realization of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. So I used to be a school teacher. And then from there, it was kind of, I met this psychic who said I was going to, have a yoga business, and it just became like one foot in front of the other. Like it was almost a race. It was a race to get out of teaching. And now I'm at a point where I feel like I've hit a lot of the business milestones. I'm quite content. And now it's almost become this like spiritual, I was just making my vision board earlier, and it's all these spiritual things. Like I want to do my 10-day Vipassana. I want to like study the Bhagavad Gita. So yeah, that's a little bit about kind of my journey, my story, and where I am now.
Oh, I love that. And I love that your vision board, I was going to say your spirit board, your vision board has taken such a beautiful direction. I think that we often will put a lot of tangible things on the vision boards, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are physical beings living in a material realm, and it's just so wonderful and expansive when we get to that point where we realize those material things are not what's going to make us happy and content and truly living the life that we believe we desire, because it's really a feeling that we're after. It's not the things. We think those things will bring us the feelings, but it's really about that feeling and what does that mean for us. So thank you for speaking about that. Could you share a couple of the things that you put on your spirit board other than the Vipassana retreat for people who don't really know what that is, and the Bhagavad Gitas? Could you share some other stuff?
Yeah. Yes. Well, something that also happened to me this year, which is that I ended up on this 12-step retreat, which is so funny because I'm sober, but I rejected the ideology of like AA, the 12-step, blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up on a 12-step retreat by accident in India in March. And that was profound to me. And what it really is just like, I think it's like basically taking all these frameworks for how other people have found hope and happiness and freedom. And I just want to learn about these things. But I put on my vision board the 12-step logo because I just want to keep going to meetings. Like I'm gaining so much from it. And what else was on my board? Yeah, the Gita, the sutras. my Vipassana. Oh, the Bali Meditation Center. There's this center in my community where they bring in Buddhist monks from Thailand, and I've been meditating once a week with them, and I go over to the school, and it's nice. I get my dose of like, you know, being around kids, and I meditate with the monks. And so I put that on my board because I want to keep doing that this year.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you still have that connection to kids because, oh, there's such pure joy. Oh,
Absolutely.
that is the delight of being a teacher, and the part that when I am not in this realm anymore, I will still cultivate being with children and finding different ways to interact and to help them grow. And they help me grow. Let's be real. It's always a two-way street.
Yes.
This so what I really want to share a lot about this season is the Soul-Preneur journey. So I have been watching your Soul-Preneur journey since I've known you. So but just a little more than a year and a half now. And I want to know, how did you decide to fully step into this path? And what was that process like for you? And I use the word soulpreneur journey to describe being an entrepreneur from a soul-led space and a heart-led business. So if you have some other take on maybe what that meaning was before I shared with you mine, I'd love to hear your perspective. And then like, how did you get onto this path and go there?
Wow, I love that question. And you know what? I was just hearing it wrong. I thought you were saying solopreneur.
Oh,
Like, oh, I am a solopreneur. Like, and then when you said like leading with the soul, I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I don't think I coined it, to be honest, because I have heard it circle around before, but I don't think a lot of people use it. And when I speak about manifestation, because I teach a lot about manifestation, there's a lot of rhetoric about like manifesting from the subconscious. Okay, so we now start to understand that it's a subconscious process. But I go deeper in than that, and I say, like, you're not going to really manifest anything that's not from a soul led. You can force stuff, but stuff that will stick around and stay is from a soul led place, because your soul is manifest in physical form. So this is why I share that word soulpreneur, because I really want to anchor into that journey of your soul is guiding you always.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Gosh, yeah. You know, business is very different being a solopreneur than running a business that's not necessarily rooted in soul. Like, how
Yeah.
do I phrase that? Other than the decisions that I make are different, I would say, than, you know, and I'm thinking about this because I spent time with a lot of people in the entrepreneur space. Couple months ago, that it just happened that one of my retreats had on a few entrepreneurs in it that were not soulpreneurs. You know, someone was like, you know, did dental software, which is an important thing, you know. It's not, I'm not saying it isn't important, but he had a totally different take on one of the things that I really invest in is I have this magazine, right, where I pay someone to produce it, you know, I have these photos, we print it, but it's a big expense every time we publish it. But it's really important to me and I get value from it. And I think the value I get from it is it's like a memory book of like, wow, these are the people that came together. These are the things we did. These are the things we accomplished. This is the makeup of our lives. And it's, for me, it's the memories of everything the Mindful Life practice has done. And it's worth that expense to me. And I think if you work a business that's not so rooted in soul, you make decisions with a different thing in mind, you know, which is like the bottom line about finances and profit and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like soulpreneurs, a lot of them are making decisions with the heart of like, you know, this to me feels like the right investment for my community. And I think that's really what, when I hear soulpreneur, that's what I hear is like, I'm making decisions from my heart. And gosh, how did I get into this space? I think I knew that I think I've just known that this is what I'm meant to do forever before I even became a school teacher. And then from that point, it was just getting like the faith and confidence and courage to actually do it and just trust that it will pan out. And that has been really a big challenge. It feels really good to have gotten to a point where I'm just riding the waves of, the ups and downs. My nervous system feels settled for the first time in years. And yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I answered your question well. Like, what was the question? How did you start to?
It's okay, you totally did. But before I even go back, if there's something I would miss, I want to touch on what you just said. You said, I got the faith, I cultivated that you had the courage and the trust. Can you depict that process for you? Because I know it's not going to be the same for everybody. Can you point out some highlights along the journey? Where did you get the faith? How did you find the courage? What does it mean to trust to you?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
trust in?
Yeah. So I would say the faith mainly came from my psychic Dan, and I highly recommend meeting him, working with him, because what he really did was he just spoke about my future in a definite reality of like, this is happening. You are going to have a yoga business. You are going to teach retreats around the world. And I had never had someone speak to me in that way. And it just flipped my perspective from like, this is what I want to do to like, this is what I'm doing. And I would recommend that. But even if if you're not able to invest in something like that, or maybe it's not something that you necessarily believe in, you don't need a Dan to do this, because all it is just a mindset shift. It's just a mindset shift from like, hoping and wishing and dreaming to like, to really just believing and acting as if. And I think that's huge. And I notice it in people, like in my students, I can see who is acting as if. Like someone was saying to me, earlier today, it's my dharma to be a yoga teacher. This is my dharma. Like, you made me a teacher. This is my purpose. And I was like, wow, I love how she's just talking about it as if this just is, and she hasn't even like started her yoga business yet. But that's what it is. It's just speaking in confident terms. And Dan gave me that faith. And then I would say a next part of it is like literally just watching the cycles, because I would get so, especially once I quit my job and the money got really tight for a while, like the money wasn't coming in for a few months, I was in like nervous system panic. And I look back on photos of me at that time and I'm like, oh my God, I look so stressed and sick. Like, it's hilarious that I was running a wellness business because I don't look well. And because the money wasn't coming in, I would just be sitting in cafes trying to make money and trying to, do digital marketing, blah, 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 blah. And now that I see the cycles, I don't really worry about it anymore, because I know that every day is so different. The money could not be flowing in and I wake up and someone's booked and paid for full for India, and that just happens to me all the time. Like, I'll wake up in the morning and have like 2 people signed up for a high ticket program, and so it's just trusting that cycle and knowing that the money will always come around. That's been huge. And yeah, so faith, confidence, trust.
So what do you put your trust in?
What do I put my trust?
Yeah, what are you trusting, or what are you trusting in?
I think my trust is in the fact that this is my purpose and this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I never question that, ever. There were times in the first year off my business, I made a really bad financial decision and the company was in a really bad place. And I remember I flew through the Middle East. I passed through Qatar. And as I smelt the Middle East air, I was like, maybe I should just go back to being a teacher. And I really thought that, and then it came together after that. Like, I came back to Bali and things came together, but I no longer have moments like that. But it took a while of watching those waves ride.
Thank you for the way that you've shared that. I know everything is always so divinely guided. So I know that I'm still in the process of editing and doing all these parts of podcasting myself. So I'm going to share something now in this segment with you and my community that I haven't actually shared yet, because it's the perfect timing, especially based on what you just said. Today, the day we're recording, is the 11/11 portal. It's November 11th, and I love portal days. I'm such a spiritual weirdo, and I love all these things about the energies shifting and being able to play between the realms, and just know that we are more than we think we are. And as you said that, you are flying through the Middle East and the smell of it all. Tonight, I'm hosting a masterclass about abundance mastery for the 11/11 portal. And you touched on just there about, even though you don't know where the money is going to come from, sometimes it then just appears in your account at the right time. And that it took a while to get settled into this place for you. This is the work that I've been really anchoring into in the last year and a half about settling my nervous system, because last year around this time, I was really in the place where I wanted to move on to the next chapter of my life. And my nervous system, while I thought I had regulated it, I thought I was well, just like you said, like you look back at pictures of yourself and you go, ooh, huh. And I was leading a wellness thing. I in the masterclass that I'm sharing tonight, I share some pictures of my journey along the way, from when I was more than 100 pounds overweight and injured and ill, to that point last year, but it wasn't exactly last year, where I was really, really frail and unwell and kind of sickly, because I was still going through a lot of not regulated nervous system, to the point where I am now. And I can see the difference in the way I physically appear, and knowing how regulated I am, because that final step for me to say, like, I know who I am, I trust who I am, this is my next step, is I signed no on my teaching contract for next year. And this is the first time I'm really publicly sharing that, because it's so beautiful. And I like, even though there's not bittersweet, because I love my teaching career. It was great. It was amazing. And now I'm teaching in a different way. So I just wanted to share that here now with you on this really special day, because you recognize and understand this journey, and you've been such a big part of my expansion and ability to take this step in the journey. Even last year, when you said to me, before we actually started filming the podcast, about like giving me advice that, taking a step when you really feel like you're ready. And that didn't necessarily have to be the same kind of readiness as you, because I'm definitely not in the same position as you, but I trust myself so fully that I'll figure all the parts out. And I know now is the time. My intuition is telling me so clearly, like, this is the time. You need to leave this part of your career in order to up level into the next part of your career and a different life. So thanks for letting me share that here and now.
It's huge. It's so exciting.
It is. And it's brilliant and it's beautiful, because I'm not saying everybody needs to leave teaching. No, if you need to be in teaching, I have lots of friends who are like, this is my path, this is my dharma. And I love that for them, because that is where they're meant to be, and they serve so well there. And that was where I was meant to be for so long. You too, when you did your part. And it's okay to also close a chapter, or to want to expand into something more. And that's really a lot of what this season of the podcast will be about. Even my first episode was about seasons, my first solo episode. And so even the way that you mentioned that, I was like, oh, thank you, universe, more please, that little nugget. So good. I cannot say enough good things about PSYCH-K. It is one of the most powerful practices, tools in my tool belts, or toys in my toy chest. I've been working with PSYCH-K for the last year, with myself and with others. And this truly is the practice that has allowed me to, well, I've allowed me to, but it has enabled me to take that big and bold step that I talked about, where I was able to shift my perspective, shift my perception of reality, and finally sign no on my contract and step into my new way of living. I'm so excited to share this beautiful methodology with you because it truly allows you to take aligned and inspired action and to do the things that you say you really want to do, but maybe you've been stuck, or maybe you've been playing small, or maybe you've been holding back for fear of so many different things. PSYCH-K is an incredible tool. It is a beautiful permission slip for you. And if you are ready to take aligned and courageous action in your life, then connect with me. Let's book a session. And I can't wait to help you realize the life beyond your wildest dreams. Are you ready to break free from limiting beliefs and turn them into limitless beliefs? Then PSYCH-K one-to-one sessions are just the thing for you. These sessions offer a powerful modality for working with the subconscious mind, the superconscious mind, and the conscious mind to help you align your beliefs with your goals and become the version of you that you say you truly prefer through aligned and inspired action. Whether in person or online or even over the phone, PSYCH-K works on a deep energetic level to release blocks and open up to new possibilities. This is such an amazing and beautiful path to your truest, most authentic self. Book a session with me today and experience the shift in your own life. Okay, can you tell me, what is your vision and mission now moving forward into your business, your brand, your everything that you're doing? I would love to hear, because I know that we talked about it last time, and I'd love to hear what the direction is and how it's shifted and changed and evolved with you.
You know, I don't know how much it has shifted and changed in that I think I have the same dreams and goals. When I when I talked to you last, I was living in this house that I was running yoga classes out of, and I had been running retreats, and that was a year and a half ago. And I would say what I'm doing is really similar now. I'm just in a different place. Like, I'm in a retreat center now with accommodation, and I teach classes there, and that's been beautiful. And my dream is for us to have our own property. And I think it's going to happen really soon for our community to just like gather and teach classes and run events and retreats and blah, blah, blah. And so that is my dream business wise. And then I also would like, for my personal life, I would just like to be more rooted in Bali itself. And that's going to mean, like, that's going to be the evolution of the company. Like, when I invest in a property, it's like, okay, this is where I'm focusing 100% of my energy, and I'm not doing all this like Middle East, India, Canada, blah, 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 which has been fun. But I would really like to be anchored here. I really want to be a mom. I really want to just be in this community, have my kid go to like the empathy school, which is around the corner. And I really want to create a home for myself. And I really haven't had a home for the last few years, which has been fine because I've had a great adventure of being in all these different places and doing all these different things. But that's important to me, is just kind of like get rooted and settled somewhere.
Oh, I love that for you. And my body felt full chills for that. So I'm so excited for you in that part of your journey. And I'm wishing you, and I'm knowing for you, that that will anchor in the way it's meant to. Um, and always, I love that we're just on such similar wavelengths. It's uncanny. When we think about the last time we talked and what you've accomplished since then, I just want to celebrate you, and I want you to share about what some of the really big things that you've done, because they've been huge. And you share with us. I know that there's one really big thing, and I still haven't gotten a chance to observe it, but I will as soon as I can get my hands on it.
Yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing that's come together is I published my book, which has been like a 5-year project, really. And that's been huge. And it just sometimes doesn't even feel like it was very overwhelming in the 2 months, like in the around the month that it came out. And then it just kind of settled. And now it just exists in the world. But that felt really cool to be able to connect with people, especially because the further I get away from that life, I think people find it hard to even imagine that that's where I came from. Like the different things that I experienced, the things that I went through, the way that I used to be. I think a lot of people see me now as, and I understand this because what I do is very, it's unrelatable, like to be living in Bali and just traveling around and doing retreats and blah, blah, blah. And if people come into my life now and they meet that version of me, it's like, how did she get there? And that's the beauty of the book, is that my book just kind of tells my story from start to finish. And that's been huge. It's also been, I had my biggest events this year. I had this retreat in India, which was fully booked. We had 15 women traveling around India. It was amazing. I have that coming up again this year, and I have one room left on it. And then I also had my first biggest 200-hour YTT. I had 15 women on that one. I had done 2 before, but they were both really small. And so that was like my first big one. And then I'm doing my advanced 300-hour yoga teacher training right now, which is my first time doing it in person. I did run it online during COVID, but it's the first time doing like a full month advanced teacher training. And so there's been, I would say those are like the huge milestones in the last year. And it's just crazy when I think about some of these things that I'm like, they were dreams and I never thought I would, and it was just normal, it's just like, I'm like, oh yeah, everyone was over here making vision boards. They've all like, I just left them and went into the spare room to record a podcast episode. Like, this is just normal for me. Not like that 5 years ago.
And I want to just highlight, like, you're speaking about you are leading these yoga teacher trainings. You're not participating in them. You are guiding
Yeah.
others, training and certifying them in this work. And so that's so huge. And these retreats, you're leading them, but not just leading them. You organize them, you plan them, you prepare them. And the work that you offer, I mean, I've only been on one of your retreats and it was a small one, but I loved it so much. And it was such a staple in my life to be like, look at what is possible. And again, you have been such an inspiration on my journey, because a year ago did I knew I wanted to be teaching light workers, training and certifying in energy healing and light work, and now I'm doing it. And so just I always want you to know what a shining light you are in my life, because you continuously inspire me, even if you don't know you're doing it.
Oh,
Will you share with us the name of your book in case our listeners would like to, and viewers would like to listen, watch it, read it?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the book is called Sober Yoga Girl. And the funny thing is that I will share about the book is that it was, so I started writing the book in 2020. And back then I was like, Alex McRobert's sober coach and international yoga teacher was like my thing. And then when I drafted the book, I came up with the name Sober Yoga Girl. And I don't even know how it came to me, but the name was always the name of the book. And then it like took on a life of its own. And I named my podcast that, and like I have a website, Sober Yoga Girl. And, the shirt I'm wearing right now, it says Sober Girls Yoga, which, was a spin-off of this. And it's so funny because everyone thinks it was like the brand and then the book came second, but it was actually the book's creation, which, started all of these movements in my life. And so it's Sober Yoga Girl book. And yeah.
And is it by Alex McRoberts, or is it your name, Alexander and Alexandra? Sorry.
Alexandra McRobert. Alexandra McRobert. Yeah, and you can get it on Amazon, Kindle. We have an audiobook coming out actually, which is my delay. I
Yeah,
have a whole what?
are you going to read it?
Well, I read it. I read it already about a month ago, and I have all these files in my inbox that I'm supposed to be listening to, and I just haven't looked at it. But it is done. It's done, and it's just in the editing process. Yeah.
So we get to hear it in your own voice. That's beautiful. Oh, yay. I will actually really like to hear it told by you and have the hard copy to read along with you. Hmm. Um, when you said the word movement, that my body gets chills because it is movements literally that move people. We can have a brand, we can have a business, we can be an entrepreneur, but that's not what makes people get up in the morning. It's the movement, it's that inspiration, it's that and it's not even the motivation from the outside world. It's that inspiration, that fire that ignites us, that calls us forward. And that's really that again just speaks to the soulpreneur journey. And so thank you for using that word, the movement, because movement is action. And I've seen it in my own life in previous versions and in many people who I notice are stuck and stagnant and they feel like they cannot move because of so much conditioning and so much societal pressure perhaps, or who knows their reasons. Like there's just infinite reasons of why they think they can't. And it's just taking one moment of why can you instead? So focusing on one step at a time, because something that seems like a dream, you just put one foot in front of the other day by day by day. And then you look back and you go, oh, it happened. And oh, look at there. And we can't imagine the journey, but it's following that intuition and that trust. Your words matter. Thank you for them. Speaking of that, what about intuition? How does your intuition speak to you? How do you tune into it? How do you know it's intuition versus maybe anxiety or some other thing that might trick itself into or try to trick you into being intuition? Could you talk about that? Discernment?
Yeah. Gosh, I think I hear my intuition when I'm consistent with my practices. When I'm consistent in my yoga practice, my meditation practice, my journaling practice, it just is obvious what the next right step is. And I would say my intuition usually comes with like a calmness to it. And my anxiety is usually like irrational, worrying thoughts. And I'm okay with it being present, it's there for a reason. It's there to like protect us. And so I think being present with both. And I think one of my biggest things now is like, I used to really feed those fearful thoughts, those fear-based thoughts. So, we talk about like the financial things, like finances. If I'm having a lull with the business, then I'm panicking and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not selling enough things, blah, blah, blah. I need to be working. I need to be working. Now I do the opposite. I'm like, okay, if my finances are slowing down, then I need to meditate on it. I need to meditate on the money. I need to like see what's going on. And then just like practice self-care, take care of myself. If I am well and I'm getting out there and I'm connecting with people, then the programs are going to sell themselves. I don't need to be online, like trying to promote things. And I think this has been my biggest switch is like, when I'm feeling fear-based or anxious-based thoughts, trying to shift myself towards a more loving place. And usually my intuition is resting in like the parasympathetic nervous system, and the anxiety is in the sympathetic nervous system, and just regulating myself is the key.
That is so good. And then when you say your intuition is in the parasympathetic nervous system, where does yours does it speak to you at some place in your body? Does it have a specific sensation, flavor, tone? Like, do you have a tell for yourself? And I'm asking, and I'm just taking because I want people to understand how different it can be for everybody. but perhaps yours will resonate with somebody and they'll be like, oh, is that what that is?
I don't know if there is a specific place in my body, but it's just like a sense of certainty, a sense of certainty. Like I've looked at a lot of properties for sale in Bali, and there is one property that I have been certain that I'm going to own one day since before I even knew it was possible. And it's like things like that. It's like this sense of certainty. And my anxiety or my fear is like, I've been looking at buying this property for like a year and a half, and I have so many other detours. Like today I went to look at another place, and I will see other listings and be like, oh, that one's cheaper, that one's blah, blah, blah. But I know I like keep coming back to this one place. I'm like, okay, this is my intuition. And so I don't think it's physically comes from anywhere in my body. I think it's just it's just a knowing, it's just a knowing. Like when I meet someone and know that they like one of my best friends is co-leading this yoga teacher training with me. And I describe meeting her as like literally meeting a soulmate. And it's like we just met and we spent this whole conversation talking to one another, and then we were just best friends. And like we worked together so well. Like it was like we were meant to come into each other's lives for this purpose. And there was nowhere except just like a knowing that she was the person I was meant to work with,
Thank you for sharing that, because yeah, some people speak to them in that way, a knowing, and you don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. It's just like, I know what I know.
Yeah.
It's like, I said what I said. I know what I know.
Exactly.
For those of you ready to deep dive, my 8-week Illuminate the Shadows container is designed to support profound transformation. This journey into shadow work combines multi-modalities in different sessions so that you get the best of all that I have to offer and all of the powerful toys and tools that I work with. And you get to be held and supported on this journey. As I always say, the healing journey doesn't have to be hard work, but it is the heart work. And this is the space where you get to be held and supported along your journey to really illuminate the shadows and bring all those things up to the surface, to the conscious awareness, so that you can meet with them, greet them with love and compassion, and finally heal and allow that trauma to move through your body. In different sessions, we work with different modalities. We anchor into safety in the body through practices like breath work and meditation. We explore the shadows and illuminate them through hypnotic journaling, the process that I've designed, and through other beautiful energy healing work. We will use emotional freedom technique called tapping to move the energy through the body. We have a couple sessions in this 8-week container that are dedicated specifically to PSYCH-K, so that you are working with this very powerful modality that I've said before really has helped me to up level my life and take those aligned action steps. There's even more inside, and I would love to share this with you. It's a safe and sacred space to explore, heal, and integrate those hidden parts of yourself. If you're ready to illuminate your shadows and step into your power, join me for this transformative experience. There is an application in the show notes that you can fill out to let me know if you'd like to join the Illuminate the Shadows container, and I will be in touch. We've covered a lot of the questions that I had, so I'm just having a little glance over here because I try to be present fully while you're speaking and absorbing all that wisdom and knowledge. So, right. I would love to hear from you how, and this is a question I'm asking everybody this season, I hope I don't forget. how do you define success, both personally and spiritually, or are they even maybe the same for you? Because they can be blended. But how do you define success?
Yeah. Wow. I love that question because I think I had a very different definition of it for a really long time in many different phases of my life. Like, I think, gosh, success to me when I was younger was like, I don't even know I don't know if I ever thought success was having a regular job. I don't think I thought that that's what success was. I think I just was trying to follow everyone else's idea of success, you know? But then when I moved into my business, I think I thought success was like hitting a certain financial point, or success was achieving certain things. And it's funny how things shifted for me at some point, and I don't know where this happened along the way, but certain things like my book, for example, I really wanted my book to be traditionally published for a long time. And I met with a lot of, agents, got my book rejected, blah, blah, blah. And then I had this realization that like my goal is not really, I don't really want to become famous from having a book. I don't need to make a lot of money off of it. Like, what is my goal here? I just want to share my story and impact people. And that can be done through self-publishing. And so it's like, why am I wasting my time in this box of like, and if people are judging that, then that's their own lens on what success is, and I think that's been a real pivotal shift for me of like, another big barrier I had around myself was like, I didn't want to work for any other yoga companies other than my own for a long time because I really wanted to just be focused on the mindful life practice, just build my business, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that if I am getting out there and collaborating and meeting other people, it's fun, it's joyful. It doesn't mean that my business hasn't been successful. It's just like now I'm in this room with a bunch of yoga people. And so this past year, I took my first yoga studio job that I've had in 5 years because I thought I was like better than teaching drop-in yoga. And I love it. I don't make any money on it, but it's fun. I just get down there, I meet people, I'm part of community. And so for me, success is like feeling joy and feeling contentment and being able to do my personal practice and connect. That's it. And it's like if I have enough money, then bonus. So that's really been my shift around what success looks like.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. And I also love how everybody's definition and everybody's version is going to continue to be so unique, because this is again what I'm trying to highlight, like how you pointed out at the beginning. I was just following what other people were doing about success. And I know this to be so common and true for many people. I was even sharing, and I'll share it here because I want to just give that a similar and expansive perspective for people who are tuning into this episode. When I first started my yoga business, because I thought that that's what I was going to do. I was going to have a yoga business. I was going to and I don't even really know what I thought at the time, to be honest, but there was this person who I followed and she was talking about helping yoga teachers have a yoga business. And so like I was going to have a yoga business and I didn't even really understand what that meant. And then I get into this space in this container, and then I actually started morphing into a coach, which I was like, I didn't necessarily even ever want to be a coach. But that was like the direction she was steering people in. And so, and people would share their goals at the beginning of the call, the container, and say like, I want to make $100,000 in my business this year. I want to like all these things. And I was like, well, I'm brand new, so that seems a little bit lofty for me. But I was like, okay, I'm going to make $50,000 in my business this year as a yoga coach now. Cause I'm like, now I'm just like literally picking up what other people are saying before it gets around to my turn. And I'm writing stuff down and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. And I remember like saying it, and I can still remember the feeling. Like, it's like, because there were parts of it that like I totally wanted, but they weren't necessarily true for me. Yet I didn't really have an idea. I wasn't clear on what I wanted because I didn't know yet. I was still learning and testing things out. And it's really funny because 9 weeks ago, when I started teaching the group of light work, I'm training and certifying them at Reiki level 1 and divine source codes, which is like my download from source. I was telling them the story of how I had written down this goal of $50,000. And I don't even like the container was 6 months. So I guess the idea was that you should make your $50,000 like in 6 months or a year or whatever. But I didn't have a timeline on mine because for me, it's always been what and why is up to me. The how and the when is up to the universe. And so I just kind of put down $50,000, did this container, did a couple other things for some other time, shied away from what I really wanted to do because I was trying to fit into this mold of what I was molded into in this container. And I'm so grateful for that because it really was a beautiful experience and practice that got me to a point where I lost myself and my authenticity in that space. And I had to do that in order to find who I really am again. However, I avoided my finances for quite a while. And I sort of tracked them for a while until I was out of that container because her whole thing was like, you'll make back the money you invested in this container by the end of the container. And sure enough, I did because I made that happen. I was like determined. I was like, if you said it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'll be darned if I waste my money and I don't follow through on this. But I ended up making the money back, which was great because at the time that was my main priority. Like, I'm investing, I want to have a return on my investment. And I avoided looking at my finances for like, gosh, I don't know, like a year and a half probably. And as I anchored more and more into what I wanted to do, moving beyond my teaching career, I went, well, we avoided this for so long. And as we know, you can't avoid things forever. And it was what I was anchoring back into my yoga practice. So, like, non avoidance. And I opened up this sheet. Then I put in all the other things that I had made in that time, like since I had stopped calculating. And I had surpassed my goal of $50,000. The timeline didn't matter to me because I didn't really put the timeline on it, but I really went like, oh my gosh, I did that. Like I created that. And if I created that, not even working full time in my business, like what it was for me was like, I was doing this out of joy and desire and passion. So imagine if I put full intentionality in, if I really align everything I'm doing, how powerful I could be, how profitable I could be too. Because the whole point is like we have to anchor into safety. And like I kind of started with the beginning of this conversation, like we are in a material world and a physical plane. And so money is a representation of that. And I needed to be able to know that I could be stable in the way that would support me so that I could take those leaps and take those risks, even though they're not risks, they're just other choices and opportunities. But all of this is to say that like we can surpass our wildest expectations. And as you said, like the money, it's not about that. And I always really tell people, especially people who are thinking about the soulpreneur journey, because I've had a lot of soulpreneurs come into my space and people who are already coaches maybe and doing different things. I remind them that money is a byproduct. It is not the goal. It is not the success. It is when you put value into the world, the value comes back to you in the ways that you need it. And it might be money, it might be opportunities, it might be conversations like this, it might be somebody just having space to hold you in, it might be your relationships, like it can come in all these different ways. And so that's kind of that success can be so different to every single person. And your version of it, I love to be able to share a little bit of my version here in this one. And I just want everybody to know that getting clear on your values, defining success for you from a soul-led place instead of an outer expectation. Tune into you and what is success for you. Because if we get clear on our definitions, then we can start living in alignment.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Love that.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, this is a two-parter. What's the worst piece of advice and I say worst with obviously like it's your judgment on that, or something that maybe you look back and go, I wish I hadn't received that piece of advice because it took me off my path. And then what was the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Gosh, those are great questions. I think you might have asked me them before, actually.
Oh, well, I'm asking them again because I don't remember your answers.
I don't remember my answers either, but I remember being asked this question. So either you asked me or someone else asked me this on a show. And I'm like, because I remember being stumped on this. I'm like, what is the worst piece of advice? I don't know if there's a specific moment in time that speaks to me, but I would say probably the worst piece of advice would be a general overall feeling from like the whole world that I couldn't do what I'm doing now. And it's kind of like, honestly, when I was getting sober, it was the same thing. People were like, you can't do it. Like, why are you, don't you just want to cut back? Why are you quitting altogether? Blah, blah, blah. And that, had I listened to it, I wouldn't be here today. It's the same with all these people who thought that I wouldn't make it, in yoga full time. And it was just that overarching attitude or theme that it wasn't possible. And that to me is probably the worst piece of advice, is just like us projecting our own limiting beliefs onto other people. And I think it's so important to just not to remember that other people really can't give you advice because they are not you. And I think that's really important, and I don't even really hear people's advice anymore unless I've asked for it. I don't hear when people give me unwanted advice because like I haven't asked for it, And what was the best piece of advice I've ever been given? Gosh, so many random things. I've gotten a lot of good advice over the years. It's hard to pick just one.
Okay, you could pick more than one if you need to.
I'm seeing random moments, like obviously, my session with Dan and his beliefs in me. It really is, I would say it's maybe not even advice, but it's moments from mentors that inspired me. Like I had a moment when I met my teacher, Rolf, who I'm going to be meeting again this year for the first time in like 5 years. And he said something to me about like, it's your dharma to teach yoga. And it's just moments like that where people believed in me. That was the best. Yeah, that's really all they could do, is just believe in me. They didn't have to tell me what way to go, where to walk, which choice to make. They just had to help me have faith in myself.
I love that. Thank you for that one. If you had to say what it means to live a fulfilling or satisfying life, what would that be for you?
I think a fulfilling life is one where I'm learning and growing and in community.
Your answers just hit all the goosebumps. Every goose is doing its thing. And then final thoughts. Do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with the people who are tuning into this podcast that you would like to leave as a parting gift?
Gosh, words of wisdom. For some reason, it's just coming to me today to just follow your soul. And I guess that ties into being a soulpreneur. And yeah, follow your soul and tap into it and listen to its whispers before it screams to you.
Yeah.
And you'll find your way. Yeah.
I love that. And do please tell us, where can the people watching, hearing, somehow seeing this find you, connect with you, and support you and your mission, or perhaps enhance theirs and go with you on some of your missions?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at themindfullifepractice.com. That's my community. I'm on Instagram, Alex McRobert. My podcast is Sober Yoga Girl Podcast. And yeah, those are like the three main places I would say. And then you can kind of find everything from there.
Amazing. And I will put it also in the show notes so that people can connect with you and share. And if anybody had some beautiful insights or some aha moments that resonated with them from the conversations that we had today, we would love for you to share it, even maybe take a screenshot of that timestamp and our whatever our faces are doing in that moment of the podcast, and share it on whatever social medias you have, or email it to us so we can and know to celebrate with you, but also to share with others to inspire and uplift the collective, because this is really what I would love to continue doing in this lifetime. And this is one of those ways that we can do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am so grateful for you and your beautiful soul, and sharing your time and energy with me always, and being such an inspiration to me in my journey.
Thank you so much for having me, Lizzie.
You're more than welcome. And from my heart to yours, namaste. Would you like to experience a complimentary sacred shift session with me and be featured as a guest on Heart's Home podcast? I am offering this opportunity to receive a live transformational session in exchange for you sharing your journey on the podcast. This is a chance to dive into a soul-led conversation and transformational session, gain insights, and allow others to learn from your experience. If you're interested in this unique offering and you'd like to work with me in a really accessible and expansive way, then reach out and fill out the application form in the show notes below, and let's explore your next steps together. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Heart's Home podcast. I'm so grateful that you were here and you got to hear my news and share in my story. This is going to be such an expansive season of limitless possibilities. When we walk in alignment, when we stand in our authenticity and move with integrity, we are living that soul-led life. And it is absolutely my passion, my delight, and my joy, and my mission to show that it is possible. Not just tell you with my words, because I can tell you things until, as my mother say, the cows would come home. But it is experience that is the great teacher. And so I want to show you through my experience and inspire you to take action in your own life. I hope today's conversation inspired you to trust your path, to tune into your intuition, and to get curious about what that feels like, sounds like, is like for you, and to listen to your intuition and honor the journey that is uniquely yours. Remember, you have the power to create the life you desire by aligning with your true, authentic essence. Remember who you are. If you want to stay connected and receive more content like this, please subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review. Any bit of love in any way, shape, or form, all the love in all the ways, shapes, and forms, helps this podcast become more visible, more audible, more out there, so that other people looking to receive the gifts that we're offering can find it. If there is anything in particular that resonated with you today, I would love for you to share it on your socials and tag me in it at heart.s.home for Instagram, and also at Lizzie Namaste Plant Based, so that other people can resonate with your message, because I'll always reshare those posts. And as always, you're more than welcome to explore the offerings that I've shared with you today. Anything from the PSYCH-K sessions, to the energy healing, to the shadow work, to the transformative live coaching on the show. Visit the links in the show notes. And together, let's continue uplifting collective consciousness, one soul at a time, shifting the paradigm, believing in order to see, not seeing in order to believe. Until next time, stay rooted in your truth, open through your heart, and expansive to the magic of the universe. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. From my heart to yours, namaste. And peace out.